there.
Hey,
Might have
Nick,
known
how are
I'd
you?
catch you coming from City Hall. How are you, man?
I'm doing well.
Good. Let's take a look in the boathouse.
Yes, sir.
So, Darron, here we are at the boathouse, and I got a little story to tell you about this particular location. This piece of property was actually owned by my family, and it was just a vacant lot. And back in the 70s, the state of Florida implemented car auto inspections. So the property was sold to the state of Florida, and the state of Florida built the original block structure that actually encompasses, or the boathouse was built around that original structure. And so for the next 8-10 years, they had, this is where you would come and drive your car through, and this is where they did the auto inspection. So they did your tires, and they did the brakes, and they did the lights, and the turn signals, and the exhaust emissions, and yada, 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 yada.
And we had to do it annually.
I had to do it annually, and I think it was $16. I'm not sure. I believe it was $16. So it was a good money maker for the state. Well, they decided to do away with, thank goodness, they did away with the auto inspections. So then a gentleman by the name of Gary came along, and he bought the property, and he actually named it the Boathouse. And he was I forget, he worked on Hondas, and he worked on outboards, and he had some canoes and boats for sale. You remember, right?
Outboard motors.
Right,
And
right. And then Spurgeon Richardson came along, and he told me one day he's going to open up a steakhouse. And so he started renovating all of this to what you see right now. And so it's just added across the street from the hotel, and it just added to our waterfront. And, you know, this place is very busy in the evening time. You know.
it's a very beautiful spot here.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. This is kind of like ground zero, That's
It
the way
is.
I like to put it, ground zero. This is where it all happened.
Right here in the middle of everything.
Right here in the middle of everything, right. And especially across the street from, 204 Ash Street, City Hall.
Yes, sir.
And, I'll tell you a little more about that. I spent many years in that building.
Many years.
Many years, yeah. But come on, let's go have a conversation about what you're up to.
Yes, sir. Hey, look, I know this guy.
Yeah. When they first opened up, they needed something to help them with pest control. And so they asked me, could they put a photo or a caricature of me up there? And I guess I am a character. But I really love what they've done by preserving and just remembering a lot of the characters from Amelia Island and Fernandina. I just think it's great, that they've done that. And, it really adds a lot of the local flair, and I like that.
Absolutely. They've done a wonderful job here. It's awesome.
They really have, and the food's great.
The food is. Well, let's go on outside and talk.
Let's go. Thank you, sir. Age before beauty, right? So, Darron, let's talk just a little bit about, you're running for city commission.
Yes, sir.
And what group is that?
That's group 5, or seat 5.
Seat 5.
Yep.
Okay. And I have to ask, what was your motivation? Tell me the story. What got you, what is it that brought us here today?
So for the past almost 24 years, I've served as a firefighter in Nassau County. It's a want and almost a drive and a need to serve my community. So it just came naturally to say, here I am, I live in the city, and I believe I have something to give back, just a little bit more to give back other than being a firefighter paramedic. So you look around the city and you see so many things that that could be improved upon, that could be done better. And I looked at it and I said, I think now's the time. Now's the time to step up and serve my city, my community, and it's been a wonderful process so far.
It's amazing. Of course, I served on the Port Authority and the County Commission in a total of 16 years. But I felt exactly the same way. I was passionate because I knew that the port needed to be, developed. And because really that's why Fernandina is Fernandina. I mean, it's because of our natural deep water port. But little did I know the battles that we were going to have to fight to get everything done, the way it is. Let me ask you this. If you had the magic wand today and you were a city commissioner, what are some of the changes that you would like to see made and why?
So if you see what we've had going on here recently, just right here behind us, the seawall. And if I had a magic wand, just one magic wand to be able to wave, it would be to see this seawall continue. And you mentioned the port a little earlier. I'd like to see that seawall go all the way to the port. I'd love to see a way to do that. That would hopefully have those people that own that piece of property, those business owners, maybe it would entice them to put a business there. And I think that would help in so many ways. I was speaking with Justin Taylor just the other day, and you look at what that would do for tourism, what that would do for jobs, what that would do for the economy. I just think it would be such a wonderful space all the way around. And it's not just for our tourists. Our residents, our city residents right here would be able to enjoy it year round. Mm-hmm. So if I had one magic wand just to be able to do one thing, it would be that.
Let's talk a little bit about city services. Is there anything in city services that you would like to see improved, possibly changed? There may be some city services that you may think maybe is obsolete and we don't need anymore. I don't know. What are your thoughts on city services?
Well, I think our number one city service that we have to keep up is our public safety. Our police and fire. It's the number one goal of government, or should be the number one goal of government. But after you get past that, there are some city services I think that could be improved. I think there's some streamlining, specifically for some of our businesses, for some of our construction. And it's not just commercial. It's residential. And when somebody's trying to build a house and they're going through a permit process and it's taking them longer and longer and longer, well, that individual is either having to rent a house, it's costing them money, and it's not just the contractor that's losing money on that. It's the person that's in the house, and then ultimately, who ends up losing revenue is the city. The city ends up losing revenue because that house isn't occupied and that house isn't on the tax roll, and that's just less that revenue that's coming in. So there's some services that the city could definitely streamline.
Tighten up on.
Yes, sir.
Everybody wants the services. There's no question about that. But everything comes with a price tag. You add a service, it comes with a new price tag. You improve a service, it comes with a price tag. When it comes down to taxation in the city, what are your thoughts on, we're growing? I mean, that's obvious. When I told you before, when I grew up here, there wasn't 3,500 people on this whole island, let alone the city. The whole island didn't have 3,500. It was less than 4,000. But as we grow, of course, revenues are coming in, but so is the demand on the current services. So I don't believe that the increase in cost on current services is outpacing the revenue coming in because of new growth. I just don't see that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's a way? I mean, when we look at a budget, you can't do but one of three things. You can leave it where it is, you can increase the income, or you can decrease the expense. In government, I've always gone to decreasing the current expense rather than increasing the revenue.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's the same with city government, county government, school board, what have you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, sir. So the budget's a really big topic of mine. I served on Amelia Mosquito Control for 3.5 years and have experience in running a budget. And the best way that I've found to do a budget is to take your budget and do what I call the calculated rollback rate. So you roll your taxes back to the calculated rate. And then from there is when you have this budget, this is what we need to operate. This is what we need to make it 365 days on this budget. And then that's when you start talking about your capital expenses and how are we going to add these in. There's going to be new construction that is going to bring in new revenue that you can use for your capital projects. Or you know what, there may be a special project or a special grant, a matching grant that you need to, to take advantage of. So to me, coming back with a calculated rollback rate, it allows us to build a budget instead of breaking it. So many times in government, that's what you see. Let's cut, let's cut, let's cut. Well, how about we cut from the beginning and build up? And that's my philosophy on budgeting.
That's excellent. I like that, because if you don't start there, how will you know if it would work or if it wouldn't work? I mean, and I'm not saying there aren't times that you just have to have more revenue. I'm not saying that, because there are those times. But I do think, just like with the school board, I mean, the school board, they're talking about, I think, going up 1 mil, is that right?
Yes, sir.
But what they did, they chose to put it to the voter and let the voter decide.
Absolutely.
And, you're either, the voter's either going to agree and decide to go ahead and implement that 1 mil, increase, or they're not. Now, if they don't, then that's going to come with some consequences too, I mean, but I do think when it comes to something like that, you need as much public input as possible.
Absolutely. And that's kind of going on or stopping on that topic of building that budget. That allows you, if you start at what would basically be zero, now you can bring the public in and you can say, the playground equipment, would you like to see this fixed? How much of a priority is it for you for this particular capital expense or this? So I think when we look at things and you talk about getting public input, that is absolutely the best way to do it.
I was thinking about this interview. I was thinking about it the other day, and one of the things that I've always thought would be neat, especially with the technology that we have today, is an online system that a citizen could go to and ask a question online, but that question would be answered in within 24 hours.
Yes, sir.
Simple things like, where do I go to get a permit? Where do I go to book, if I want to book the recreation center, where do I go? What is the price to book the recreation center? I mean, we have so many new people now that are living here. They don't have a clue. And I've heard it over and over and over. They come down, they ask the question, and when they leave, they're confused. They still don't have an answer. And it's always bothered me, city and county and state, how government doesn't want to put anything in writing. And my way of thinking is, if this is the way it is, why would you not put it in writing? But I don't know. What are your I mean, this is something that can be implemented with just the IT person at City Hall.
Absolutely. I definitely believe the city can improve on their social media relations. That's where everybody gets information these days. It's picking up a phone, it's picking up a tablet. There needs to be some expanding on that, because I believe at times the message that comes out from the city may not be a bad message, but it's just not properly put out. And just not properly, for lack of a better term, marketed. And those would be certainly things that we need to look into to say, how can we better improve our interaction with our constituents? And that's the key. The key to anything is relationships, communication, partnerships. The key to getting anything done is those things. So I believe wholeheartedly that we could certainly implement some things to better communicate with the constituents.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, because that is the key. I mean, the community is much more than just brick and mortar. The community is really the people who live here. That is the community. And I mean, I know that if the people can't stay in touch with their government and at least get an answer from their government, then I question, what are we doing and why are we doing it?
Absolutely.
We back to the port for just a moment. We fought some battles back in, 86, 87, 88, trying to get the port done here. And we had a couple of commissioners that just fought it tooth and nail. They didn't, at the city level, they just didn't want it. And but you know, the Port Authority it's a large employer here in the city, and it does generate revenue. I mean, you know, the spinoff businesses from the port they're enormous. And Justin, I do encourage you to get with Justin. I encourage you to get with Danny Fullwood and just sit down with them and talk. You know, Danny and I go way back. Our moms, there's only a few days difference, I think, in our birthdays, but our moms used to put us in the same playpen together. So I've known Danny for 75 years. And but I do encourage that. I do encourage sitting down with the two mills and, you know, talking to them. I heard a rumor the other day that West Rock was thinking of maybe closing or maybe cutting back. And that would be devastating all over the county as far as timber goes and woodwork, you know. So your thoughts on just getting with the major employers and, you know, even at the plantation and the Ritz-Carlton, and, you know, I mean, there's a lot of those folks who work there but live in the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I know getting with, you know, both mills, getting with the port, and they supply so many jobs, and they're such an economic driver to this city. They're in my opinion, they're beautiful to look at. You know, you have some people that come in here and think that they're eyesores, and I don't. I think they're a beautiful part of this community. I think they are just the shining example of a working town, and that is what Fernandina is, and that's what Fernandina needs to stay. And I would do whatever possible to get partnerships, private-public partnerships with both the mills, public-public partnerships with the port, and just do what we can to enhance everybody's lives here. Everybody's lives, not just the workers and not just the city residents.
Yeah, and I believe that your large employers would jump right in on that. I really do. I think they say you had a project you wanted to do and it was $2 million or what have you. I do think that the major employers would jump in on that and help. The election is November 8th?
November the 8th, yes, sir.
November the 8th.
Tuesday, November the 8th.
Of course, that's on a Tuesday, always on a Tuesday. You know, we used to have a mayor here, his name was Tom Goolsby, and Tom used to sit right on the corner here, and he had it exactly 150 feet from the polling place. But Tom would sit there with a yellow pad, and as you walked up, he'd say, "Good morning, Darron," and he'd write you down. And then, "Good morning, Chris," and he'd write you down. When the polls closed, he could tell you within 30 or 40 votes what he had. And it worked every time. Now, we can't do that today because we've got so many new people here. And, you know, it's a shame we can't know each one of them, each and every one of them. And I know I try to keep history alive, you know, on my channels and things like that and through Amelia Island TV. But in closing, if you had a message that you wanted to give to the voter, let's do this. I only have one vote. That's all I can give anyone is one vote. Why should I give that vote to you, or why should a voter give that vote to you?
Well, it's about leadership. And at the fire station, I'm a lieutenant there, and I lead a crew. And I understand how to lead. But it's not just about leading from the front. It's about a servant leader, servant leadership. It's understanding that I'm here to serve every one of the constituents here. And I'm going to serve, but I'm going to lead at the same time. It's a choice that I've made to lead and to serve this community. So if there's one thing that I can say you will get from Darron Ayscue, City Commissioner, Seat 5, it's leadership. And it's taking issues straight to task, getting things done, and not standing around and waiting for someone else to do it. It's servantship, it's leadership, and that's the number one reason.
Well, I know from your elected position with the Amelia Island Mosquito Control that you answered every phone call every day.
Yes, sir.
That I know. And I can't tell you, and I did that for 16 years, and I can't tell you how refreshing that is to a constituent to be able to pick the phone up, call their elected official, and just say, hey, give me a call back. I have a question. I have a problem. And you do it, and that's what it is. It's all about, responding to those that put you in the position that you're in. Darron, I really think November the 8th is going to be an exciting day, and I really, really think that you stand a great chance of being our next city commissioner for that group. And I know there's a lot of folks out there, who are on your team and pulling for you.
Yes.
You're married, Michelle.
Yes, sir.
I want to get that out. 2 children.
2 children.
And tell me about them.
Beautiful wife, Michelle, been married 20 years.
High school sweetheart.
High school sweethearts, all the way back to Terry Parker High School in Jacksonville, and we moved up here when we got married. We have a beautiful daughter, Macy, just a recent graduate of Fernandina Beach High School. She is at JU right now and enjoying the nursing program down there. My son Tyler is supposed to be a rising junior, but instead he's skipping a year of high school. He's going to be a senior this year, and he plans to go to fire school and carry on the tradition. As you know, my father was a firefighter as well.
Oh yeah.
So we're excited. I'm very proud of them. I'm proud of my family, and they are what helps drive me. I've grown a family here in Fernandina, this is my home, and this is home for them, and I want to see more families grow up here.
Yeah. Darron, I want to thank you for allowing me to do this interview with you today, and I know that our viewers through Amelia Island TV, they now know more about Darron Ayscue and what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I'm just as proud as I can be to have had a little part of it.
Yes, sir.
I wish you nothing but best of luck.
Thank you.